Okay, let me give you a walkthrough of the vulnerabilities view. So here, when you enter the vulnerabilities view, the first tab you'll find is a list of all the open vulnerabilities. And it's a collected view showing vulnerabilities that we've found both from our product surface monitoring and our product application scanning. And we find vulnerabilities thanks to also our external community called crowdsource. So we have this group of ethical hackers that are usually maybe bug bounty hunters. So whenever they find vulnerabilities out in the wild, they can submit that to Detectify. And as soon as we build it in as a module, we will start running that in our scans. So we've had modules coming in as fast as down to 10 to 15 minutes from the time they've been submitted through the crowdsource to when it starts being scanned across our customers' attack surfaces. So that's a great way to make sure that your attack surface is always covered by the latest and greatest coming from our crowdsource community. Looking more into this vulnerabilities page, you can, again, just like in many of other pages, you can use the groups to filter only to see vulnerabilities that belongs to a specific domain maybe that you think is more important to keep track of. And you can also filter down to different kinds of timeframes that you want to look into. And the table is just like the other ones. You can filter and sort based on what you want to see higher up in the table. But in the first column, you'll see a list of vulnerabilities, the name and the endpoint where it has been found. You can also see its CVSS score, the severity based on the CVSS score. And we know that risk is not 100% based on CVSS score, but it could be a good indicator of maybe something that you might want to keep an eye on. Status of the vulnerability, if it's active, it's been found again, and then it's a regression, and it could also be something else if you scroll further down to find out. Asset indicates the apex domain where this vulnerability belongs to. Tags is something that you can add yourself if you want to mark something or remind yourself that you've already looked into this or track status or something. It's a custom tag that you add by yourself. Scan source indicates whether it's been found by surface monitoring or application scanning. Last seen shows that when this vulnerability was last found by us, and first when it was first found. And again, you can use filters to really dig into the view that you really care about. And like I mentioned, you can use manage tag to add your custom tags that you can apply on each vulnerability as you want. You can also choose the export feature to export everything that you have in this table. So if you want to create a report, let's say for a specific endpoint, you can filter down to that endpoint or from that time frame to create a time slot for that particular area that you want to create a report for. And for each of these vulnerabilities, you can select them and mark as either fixed if it's been remediated by your team, or you can mark it as accepted risk if it's something that is not deemed as risky to you because of your business context, or you can mark it as false positive if it's something that wasn't really correct according to you. And something that is worth mentioning is that we do everything with payload-based testing. So we are able to keep our false positive down to below 0.5%. But if you find something that we've missed, please mark it and we will definitely take a look at it more thoroughly. Yep, and if you were to go to the other tabs, you'll see the collection of vulnerabilities that has been marked as fixed, and the ones that have been marked as accepted risk, and the ones that have been marked as false positives. And of course, it's a similar view. If there's something that's been marked by mistake, you can easily select them and put another marking on them, and then they will jump on back up to the other table views. All right, so this is the collected view of the vulnerabilities. Let's dig into one in specific and see what we can find in the details view. I'll select the adminer exposure. As you can see, we're diving deep into this vulnerability where we can see where it's been found at, the command line, the severity tag, if it's active or regression, the CVS score, and more information about that if you're curious, because One thing to note is that 75% of all our findings are not CV based, so a lot of them have had a CV score custom assigned by us. So that's something that you might want to dig into to learn more about how that corresponds to maybe how you would assess that score in your organization. Followed by that summary on top, we have the risk description, sort of formulated in a layman's term, what it means and what can happen if you keep this vulnerability exposed. We provide you with the request and response, since we do payload-based testing, so we could expand that to see the details, what we send and what we get in back, and followed by the details about the findings per se, and this will differ depending on which finding you're looking into. And at the bottom, you'll have a list of references to learn more about this finding and maybe some remediation tips in some cases. And we also encourage you to give us a thumbs down or up, depending how helpful this information was, so we know if there's a particular details view that we need to improve with more information. And that was a quick roundup about the vulnerabilities view.